What's going on, YouTube fam? Thanks again for coming back to my channel. For any returning subscribers, for any new subscribers, welcome. If you're liking the content I'm putting out, please support the cause and hit that like button. So today I want to talk about 5 diet myths. Myth number 1, avoid fat food or buy fat-free versions of foods that naturally have fat. So I don't like this myth at all. Luckily, there are more and more studies coming out showing the benefits of nutritional fat. Of course, keep in mind, obviously not all fats are created equal, but there is this kind of misnomer where these people believe that if you are trying to lose weight, you're toning, you're cutting, whatever, that you need to minimize the amount of fat, because there is still this belief that fat creates fat, and that's not exactly how that works. So what people are then doing is they're buying fat-free versions of food that already naturally have fat, cheese, yogurts, milks, things of that nature. And of course the truth is that fat is not the enemy. Just like even though I'm on a ketogenic diet, I know that carbs are not the enemy. They're not all created equal, and it depends on where we're getting them from, how much we're eating, and what combination we're eating. So a big problem in the Western diet is that a lot of foods are going to be both high fat and high carbohydrates. So let's look at example a McDonald's cheeseburger, just a normal cheeseburger with medium fries. You're already looking at 630 calories, 28 grams of fat, 77 grams of carbs, and only 19 grams of protein. This isn't even adding any kind of like a soda or sweet tea or whatever you want to drink. The problem with that kind of a diet, when you're having both high fat and high carbohydrates, is the way that our body uses nutrients for fuel. So our body is accustomed to using carbohydrates for fuel because it's a quicker, more responsive, although temporary, but it's a little insulin spike. So the body likes to use carbohydrates as the primary fuel source, and if we have carbohydrates plus fat, it's going to take the carbohydrates, use those, and then store the fat for later. Versus if you were to have, say pretty high carbohydrates but pretty low fat, low natural fat, that might be a little bit better. And then vice versa, ketogenic diet, you have very little carbohydrates and you have high fat, so your body's going to convert that into ketones. The body needs a primary fuel source. So when you have both of them, it's going to store one of them as fat. So then you say, well, okay, then if I want to have carbs, then I should be eating fat-free foods or low-fat foods. Yes and no. If you're going to have a high carbohydrate diet, if you just like that better, then you want to stick with foods that are going to be naturally low in fat. The problem comes that fat is flavor. So when you have products that are naturally fat containing and they remove the fat, those companies that are removing that fat have to add the flavor back in somehow. So a lot of times they're going to add preservatives, artificial flavoring, artificial sweeteners, certain chemicals. They're going to add stuff back to try to give it that flavor, and then also to allow it to keep fresher on the shelf or in the fridge. So you're putting more garbage into your body than if you would just eat the normal food that has fat in it. Number 2, eating after 6 p.m. is going to make you fat. Of course, the actual time doesn't matter, but there is still this strong belief by a lot of people that if you eat food, especially carbs, but if you eat food or your meal late at night, that you're just going to magically get fat. So you're just going to take all that food and be like, oh, hey guys, guess what? It's after this time. Got to store as fat. Obviously, that's not true. Whatever meal you decide to eat, whether it's at noon or whether it's at 6 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, it's still going to have the same amount of calories and the same amount of macronutrients. Where does this myth come from, and is there any kind of validity to it? The thing is that we have kind of proven that the later we eat at night, usually the more poor choices that we make when it comes to food. We make less healthy choices. How many times have you ever been to sporting event, a concert, or whatever, hang out at the club, you get out, it's almost midnight and you're starving? More than likely you're not going to get a salad or a chicken breast. More than likely you're going to get a pizza or Chinese food, right? So that's kind of where the idea comes from, is that the later we eat, usually, if we don't normally eat late, we're going to make poor choices. The other part of that is if you were to eat late and then immediately go to bed. Let's say that you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you've had a long day, you're like, crap, okay, I gotta slam down some dinner, get in all my calories and my macronutrients, and then I'm gonna go right to bed. Well, now we're not properly utilizing the food that we just gave our body. Yes, you're gonna go into a little bit of a fasting state, but everything starts to slow down when we're sleeping, so you're not using the fuel that you just gave your body, versus if you were to, eat and then go work out, or eat after you worked out, but not immediately go to bed. Taking that same information, if you, let's say that you work a night shift or an odd shift, and you get off of work at midnight, and then you decide to eat a meal. Just because the clock says midnight doesn't mean that that's just automatically going to store as fat, or that's going to be any worse for you. If you eat that at midnight and a couple hours later you go to the gym or exercise or take a walk or whatever, it's going to be the same thing as somebody who had a normal 9 to 5. Here's another one of my favorite ones that not a lot of people like to touch base on, and that is diet soda. Diet soda will make you fat. So, I want to first break down again, where does this myth come from? Why do people believe this? Why do so many people say that diet soda is actually worse for you than regular soda? So we have to look at it at a couple different points. Now, I will be the first to say that there is absolutely nothing healthy in a diet soda. There's nothing healthy in a regular soda. There is nothing healthy in the sodas, other than maybe caffeine can give you a little bit of a boost, but you can get natural caffeine other ways. Now, when I lost 75 pounds, I drink soda every single day. And though I have definitely cut back on the amount of soda that I drink, I still have soda on a regular basis, diet soda on a regular basis. I like the way it tastes, I like the carbonation, I like the way it makes me feel. I just like soda. A lot of times people say, well, it's the artificial sweetener. It's the artificial sweetener that's bad for you in the diet soda. And while artificial sweeteners may not be healthy, we have to really look at what artificial sweeteners are being used, what do they do in our body. A lot of people that spew this information, that just repeat what they've heard over times, don't actually understand the science or haven't bothered to research any of it. So most soda companies, or most companies who use any kind of a artificial sweetener for their diet drinks, are still using aspartame. Now, aspartame has had a bunch of mixed reviews. There's been nothing concrete on it yet. There's been studies that showed that it does have a slight carcinogenic property, but that was in rats. They haven't really done a full long-term study on humans, but the studies that have been done for at least over a decade now have not truly shown any kind of negative side effects. Again, not saying that it's healthy, but that just drinking diet soda isn't going to just immediately give you cancer. The other one that is pretty dang common is sucralose. Now, sucralose, that's got a 0 glycemic index, 0 calories, 0 this, that, and the other. And from the studies that I've seen, they haven't even found any kind of carcinogenic properties from sucralose. So as far as being a safer alternative sweetener, trust me, I would rather see companies pay a little bit more money and use like erythritol, because erythritol has 0 effect on the glycemic index, it has 0 effect on tooth decay. It's just, in my opinion, one of the best alternative sweeteners out there, and it's all natural. But it's a little pricier, and companies aren't going to want to change their entire formula to possibly lose money. But, getting on a little rant there, diet soda, there's nothing in that can of soda that's going to make you fat. Is it healthy? No. Is it healthier than drinking an actual soda, like a regular soda? Absolutely. Is it healthier than drinking a beer? Absolutely. Number 4, the BMI, the body mass index. I don't like the body mass index for a number of reasons. Now, if you don't know the body mass index, I'm going to read it here. So the formula, which luckily there's online calculators to do this for us, but you take the body mass divided by the square of your body height, giving you a unit which would be kilograms over metric height, I believe, determining if you're underweight, healthy, overweight, or obese. So put that in normal terms here. Body mass index was created to kind of gauge and give people an idea of this is what your ideal body weight should be. The problem that I have with it is that there's a ton of different factors, human factors, that it can't take into consideration. If you're looking at just an average for some people, if you're looking at a generalization of the masses, then it might work. But for example, the body mass index says that I'm obese. And if I go onto the online calculators, most of the calculators, all I'm putting in is my height and my weight. And it's taking that to say that I'm obese, because it's saying, well, if you're at this height and this weight, then you should actually be at this weight. The problem that I have with that is they're not taking into consideration my muscle mass. They're not taking into consideration my heritage. For example, Asians are going to have a completely different body mass index than myself, as far as with your actual body structure and what's considered a healthy weight. I don't believe that I'm obese. Do I have some more body fat that I'd like to lose? Absolutely. But I am sitting right now at about 26% body fat, which is higher than I want it to be, but is definitely not obese. So for a lot of people, I feel like it more is a deterrent and kind of puts them down or gives them unrealistic ideas. For example, if I'm considered obese, I'm a little afraid to see what they would consider as healthy, because I'm at the top of the spectrum. I'm not even overweight. They're saying I'm obese. Obese, I usually see are in people that are, pushing about 400 pounds plus if they're fairly short and have mostly body fat and zero muscle. So they're not taking into consideration your age, your gender, your muscle mass, your bone density, your ethnicity. There's a ton of different factors that BMI does not take into consideration, which is the main reason that I don't use that. I feel like it gives people kind of a false idea of health. And myth number 5, you have to lose weight before you build muscle or tone. So I hear this all the time, especially when I'm getting new clients. They say, hey, look, I really want to just do a bunch of cardio and I want to lose as much body fat as I can, and then maybe I'll worry about building muscle. It's not how it works, guys. I mean, you can you can do certain diets that are going to be just solely based on losing body fat. Depending on what kind of exercises you're doing, depending on how your body composition is, you might naturally already build some muscle. But there is no saying that you have to lose body fat and then build muscle. In fact, more studies have proven that building muscle at the same time will actually burn more body fat than if you were to do just strict, caloric restriction or just a ton of cardio. That's another thing I hear a lot of people think is that, well, cardio is what I need to use in order to lose a bunch of body fat. Now, break that word down. Cardio stands for cardiovascular, which is your heart. It's the way that our blood moves. So cardio is absolutely important in any kind of a healthy lifestyle. But if your goal is for fat loss, I would say to combine the cardiovascular exercises with a resistance training, like a weight training. And you don't have to go heavy. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to be a power lifter. Just adding some basic resistance training with lightweight dumbbells, resistance bands, anything that you want to do, and you can work your way up from there. But what happens is the muscle is going to actually burn the fat. Again, there's this common misconception that if you try to add muscle, that you're going to just add muscle on top of your existing fat. And again, that's not how that works. Your muscles are going to be eating up that fat. Your metabolism is getting revved up to eat that fat. So you're going to do it at the same time. Also, there's a misconception in that same regards that if you do lifting, if you lift weights, that you're going to just immediately bulk up and either look manly if you're a woman, or you're going to get super jacked, and you don't want to be jacked because you're trying to be a swimmer or whatever. And again, that's just misconception. It's just bro science. Pro bodybuilders have to go through very specific diet, very specific training regimen in order to get as big as they are. So if you've never done weightlifting before, I would suggest pick up some 5-pound, 10-pound dumbbells and just get started. It's amazing the endorphins that get released and just the tonality of your body and the changes that you see. Add that, I would say, to do maybe one day on, one day off between, cardio and weight training if you're a beginner. It's an amazing experience, and I promise you're going to like the way you look.
You're going to like the way you look.
All right, y'all, so I'm going to make some more videos here on this pretty soon as far as busting other myths. What are some of the myths that you hear on a regular basis that you would like some feedback on or would like me to bust? And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. And if you want to support the cause even further, I am on Patreon. This is my full-time job between this and the online coaching, and a couple little side gigs here and there. So if you guys want to support the cause even further so I can keep putting out great content for you, there's a button there. It's donation. You don't have to do anything. And then I believe there are some kickbacks, shout outs to the videos, some of my t-shirts with Decimate clothing, so you get a little bit back as well. So guys, again, initiate, dedicate, decimate.